Oliveira Lawyers. Today is Wednesday. Now it's exactly 12:30 Rio de Janeiro time. We are starting one more live stream. And I have Mark Burgard. Welcome, Mark. Mark is the first one to enter something here in our chat too. Let's see. Boa tarde, senhor Luciano. Tudo bem? I'm here in Maceió. That's so cool, Mark. How was your carnaval? Have you spent the entire carnaval in Maceió? For those of you who don't know, Maceió is in the northeast of the country. The northeast of Brazil is a traditional destination for those looking for a more authentic carnaval experience, right? We have, like the parade type of carnival in Rio de Janeiro. And in the Northeast, even though there are some parades, we call it like more blocos de pessoas, or blocks, like people are going to be basically following some specific singers who are going to be naturally, singing carnival songs, and everybody's going to be following kind of forming, blocks, blocks that are going to be going through a main avenue, if you will. So let us know, Mark, if that was your experience. I know many foreign citizens on the other side, they say, listen, carnival is too much for me. I would rather, just rest and, maybe watch TV, see the parades through the TV. But I want to know, how was your experience? Oliuni, so good to see you here, Oliuni. Oliuni is in Brasilia. Really, Oliuni? That's so cool. We have a new office in the works. Like we are actually renovating a space, Oliuni. And in this location, we are based on the main building of the Brazilian Bar Association. So the Brazilian Bar Association has an entire building in Brasilia, and this is located, and it's so convenient. It's located probably about a half a mile from the main embassies, right? So for those of you who don't know Brasilia is the capital of Brazil, and you're going to naturally find most embassies located in Brasilia, and you also find like the entire federal government infrastructure is located in Brasilia. And Brasilia was created from the scratch. It was an entirely planned city. It was launched, if I'm not mistaken, exactly in 1960. And it's a very beautiful city, all right? It's a beautiful, pleasant, and it's just a great city to live in, Brasilia, right? So very interesting that Oliuni is there, and we are renovating this space so we can be close to the embassies, particularly the U.S. Embassy. The U.S. Embassy is located like half a mile from this building, the building of the Brazilian Bar Association. And I'm just curious, what you're doing over there, Oliuni? Were you enjoying, like, I know that there is no carnival in Brasilia, right? There is no carnival whatsoever, because Brasilia has this kind of a vocation of a work around the federal government. And guess what? During Carnival, there is no work, coming from the federal government. Also, like the Congress people, like they leave Brasilia, they go back to their, bases. And Brasilia kind of, it's almost like a ghost town. For those of you who like, a very peaceful place, Brasilia is very peaceful, particularly from Friday to Monday, because from Tuesday to Thursday, that's like the peak activity by Congress people. So not only Congress people are going to fly in, but also all of those surrounding the Congress people and the ministries as well, and naturally the whole federal government. We have Wally Khan. Welcome, Wally. Hello, sir. How are you? I'm pretty well. Thank you for showing up, Wally. Yokora. Hi, Yokora. Yokora says, bom dia, Luciano. Bom te ver. The same here, Yokora. Very glad to have you over here. Timo Ortiz. Welcome, Timo. Timo is saying, hello, for the retirement residency, does the 2000 have to be deposited and left in the Brazil bank account, or can I withdraw it back to my American account? So, Timo, uh, for you to qualify for the retirement, for the Brazilian retirement residency, like in Brazil, the Brazilian government is not going to ask you, or the Brazilian immigration is not going to ask you to send the money to Brazil. Like, they expect you to send the money. So particularly for the first application, what they are going to be asking from you is, of course, evidence that you have, the retirement income coming consistently. So it does not work if you're not drawing. That's a very common type of situation. In our consultations, the person says, well, I have $1 million in my 401k and this and that. I say, listen, what are you drawing? And the person says, well, I don't really want to draw because I don't need. I have, 200,000 US dollars cash at hand, and it's not going to work because the Brazilian immigration is very checklist oriented, okay? And for the income, they want to see that you're drawing. They want to see in your bank statement the $2,000 coming into your bank account. And again, when you are first applying, they're not talking about going into a Brazilian bank account. They're talking about your regular bank account. So if you are from the US, this money would be going to your bank account in the US. There is no money going to Brazil. They also ask for a letter from the bank stating that you are able to send the money to Brazil, okay? Their concern is that they don't want you to come to Brazil and say, well, I tried to send the money, but my bank doesn't let me send. So before they give you the residency, right, or the visa, they want to make sure that you can send the money. Now, after you are in Brazil, right, let's say if you get the visa abroad, you usually get this visa for 2 years. When you're going to renew, they may very well ask you, listen, I want to see that you actually sent the $2,000, right? And in this case, you're going to need to provide a bank statement showing that every month you are sending the $2,000 into a Brazilian bank account. And now how you are spending this money usually is not their concern. Of course, if you show a bank statement with money coming in and coming out every single month, it doesn't look good, right? So this is going to be on a more case-by-case scenario, if you will, Timo. Timo is also asking, also during the process of getting the residency, do you have to stay in the country? How often is permanent residency denied after the 2 years of temporary residency? All right, so that's another good question. Timo, like at the beginning, they wouldn't really care much about those things, about sending money to Brazil or about, you staying in Brazil. However, there was an update to the retirement track in a sense that after a while, you can actually migrate from the retirement track to the permanent residency, right? So this became a pretty big deal from an immigration perspective, and therefore, whenever they are reviewing your specifics, they are going to be picky. Okay, so I can tell you that if you're not staying in the country, they would very probably deny your extension. Okay, now there are no, and you may ask, well, so for how long should I stay? Right? There are no such guidelines. And the immigration officers, they are doing more on a case-by-case basis. Okay? Sean, welcome, Sean. Sean says, boa tarde. For digital nomad, the amount that should be in your account, either lump sum or recurring transfer, does it need to come from the employer? All right, so Sean, a heads up, right? Like there are different let's say, different ways for you to apply. One way is for you to apply through a consulate. Another way is for you to apply while in Brazil, right? So our experience, most of our cases, they are done in Brazil. So that's what our experience is coming from. And when you are applying in Brazil, right, truth, a law firm like ours, right, when we file an application, we actually, like whenever the immigration analyst is reviewing the case, they see that you are being represented by a law firm. So in our cases, when they see that you have like the lump sum, right, the 18,000 US dollars sitting in a bank account. Remember, it gotta be a bank account. It cannot be a CD. It cannot be an IRA. It cannot be, funds, right? It gotta be a checking account or a savings account. If you have the 18,000, they are not gonna bother cross-matching your money to the company that you're working for, all right? Now, this is one of the two tracks. The second track for you to show your financials when it comes to the digital nomad is going to be the recurring income, right? The recurring income, the minimum amount is going to be the 1,500 a month. And whenever you go through this route, then yes, they are going to do the cross-checking. So if you're showing 3 bank statements with 1,500, at least 1,500 coming per month, they are going to look at your work contract and they are going to see, all right, so work contract says, Sean is working for company ABC, and then they are going to look at the bank statements and going to say, all right, I see that in the bank statement, Sean is getting 1,500 a month from company ABC, all right? So that happens when you use the recurring income route. If you work with the lump sum route, they are not going to do the cross-checking in our experience, right? Now, if you are applying by yourself or if you're applying through a consulate, it may be a different scenario, right? All right, Yokota, under the real estate investment visa temporary phase in Brazil, is there a language requirement to gain a permanent residency after 4 years or to gain citizenship after 8 years? Yokota, so the language requirement is only for citizenship, all right? So, there are different ways for you to secure the permanent residency. One of them is going to be exactly the real estate route, right? And there is no language requirement whatsoever, okay? Also interesting is more like as of curiosity, if someone acquires the permanent residency, but if they are unable to learn the Portuguese language, there is a plan B type of approach, which says that after 15 years as a permanent residency, guess what? They are going to lift the language requirement, right? They're going to say, listen, if you didn't learn Portuguese in 15 years, I understand you're not going to learn ever, and therefore, just take the citizenship and you're good, okay? All right, Wally Khan. Hello, sir. Hello, Wally. I want to process my digital nomad visa with you. I also got your ebook for the 7 mistakes. It's very helpful. I want some discount on your consultation fee. All right, Wally, we would be very glad to assist you. So if you have the ebook, right, on the last page of the ebook, there is a code, right? So just go back to the ebook. You're going to see a code, and that's a discount code that you can enter when booking the consultation. And there you go. You're going to get a discount for the consultation, okay? I hope that was helpful, Wally. Marky Burgard, I should have added that I already have my RNM, so the passport is now on my radar. That's good for you. That's great, Mark. Is it the RNM? I would guess like permanent residency, right? A permanent residency for both Mark and other followers. Once you have the permanent residency, after 4 years of permanent residency, you can actually apply for the citizenship, right? Now, there are two fast-track routes, which are based on marriage. So let's say if Mark got his permanent residency through marriage, instead of waiting for 4 years, Mark is going to need a single year permanently residing in Brazil, not traveling to follow the world, right? Like permanently staying in Brazil. And in a single year, as a permanent resident, Mark could apply for the Brazilian citizenship, right? Of course, there is the language requirement. So, Mark, will need to speak, write, read, understand advanced Portuguese in order to qualify for the Brazilian citizenship. But good for you, Mark. Thank you for sharing. Sean, does time spent as a digital nomad impact tax residency status? So, Sean, the way I like to explain, tax residency for the digital nomad is that digital nomad has zero impact on the taxation, right? Meaning that is not going to trigger taxation, but unfortunately, it's not going to shield you from taxation. And that works similarly in other countries. For instance, Portugal is the same thing. Like, you go to the revenue service, they say, listen, I don't care if you are a digital nomad or not. I'm going to follow my rules. And I don't care about digital nomad status, right? So how does it work in practical terms? It works like this. Again, you got the digital nomad. It doesn't create tax residency. However, after 183 days in the country, meaning day 184, guess what? You're going to become a tax resident, right? So from this perspective, on the time trigger, the digital nomad has no influence. It doesn't trigger tax residency, and it does not shield you from tax residency, if you will. All right, Wally, if I reside in Brazil for 2 years on a digital nomad visa and then switch to a business visa or any other eligible visa for another 2 years, would I be eligible to apply for permanent residency? So, Wally, what is going to allow you to migrate to the permanent residency is going to be certain types of either visa or residency, right? I'm not sure the type of business visa that you're talking about. Like business visa usually is just a visitor visa. So a visitor visa or a digital nomad visa in Brazil, none of them are going to give you access to permanent residency, right? So as of today, if you stay in Brazil for 10 years as a digital nomad, you don't get anything, right? Like once this is over, it's over, and you got to leave the country, okay? So digital nomad and business visa based on visit for business, they don't give you access to permanent residency. Brasil Vibes, boa tarde, Mr. Oliveira. Boa tarde, Brasil Vibes. Where should first-timers to Fortaleza stay and why? I would need strong internet service to work online. What is the name of your pousada? All right, let's take a look. Let's take a look here together. All right, Fortaleza. I particularly like the Meireles area. Fortaleza map. All right, the Meireles area. And all right, I hope you guys can see well. All right, we have a Praia de Iracema. Okay, Praia de Iracema, which is pretty nice. We have this area over here, which is like, Praia do Futuro, Complexo Croco Beach. This is more like for tourists. Meireles is this area here. So whenever I am in Fortaleza, and I was in Fortaleza last week, I usually go to Meireles, all right? That's the area over here, Brazil Vibes, all right? And this area, you have a really nice infrastructure, okay? You have plenty of condos, and they are all available on booking.com, right? The last one I booked it for this past week. It was, I think, 350 reais per night, right? So that would be roughly, $65 per night. And it was including breakfast as well. This area is pretty good. Like the condos, they are going to have a decent internet. but I would double check with the host, if the internet is solid. But what I like about, Meireles, this area over here, Meireles, as you can see, okay, is that, and you can see the skyline down here, right? Like, I mean, it's a really nice area of Fortaleza. You have, dining, you have many restaurants around, and it's also easy for you to access other areas of Fortaleza, right? Let's zoom out. And as you can see, you are in this area over here, right? So it's not exactly central, but from here you can pretty much access any part of Fortaleza that you like, okay? So that's my recommendation. Also in Meireles, there is Ponta de Mucuripe, right? Or just Mucuripe. Mucuripe is basically a continuation of Meireles. There is a really nice experience here, like the Mercado dos Peixes, right? Or the fish market. They have something very unique, like you don't find this experience, at least that I know in São Paulo or Rio de Janeiro. It works like this, like you buy fish and they are going to prepare the fish that you're buying on the spot, right? So you can, enjoy shopping. You're going to see different types of fish. Of course, there is seafood, like other types of seafood, crabs and shrimp and all types of, shellfish. And then once you pick your food, you're going to tell them how to prepare. So you may ask them to cook, you may ask them to grill, right? And then, of course, they are going to add some side dishes to your main dish, and you're going to have this meal by the beach, right? Just watching the sea, and it's super affordable, right? I think the upside of this experience is the affordability of Fortaleza, particularly if you compare to Rio de Janeiro, right? Now, talking about our pousada is Pousada Jurema Branca, right? This is the name of the pousada. It has like a really nice Instagram account. You see here, like there are 11,000 followers, all right? And as you can see, it's by the beach, and it does, it does give you a really nice experience, right? Like, I mean, as you can see here, people are having a blast, right? Like, I mean, some units, they have like individual pools, and it's a beachfront pousada, all right? I'm gonna write here in the chat window for those of you who wanna visit the property. I'm gonna share with you guys the name of the pousada. So Pousada Jurema Branca. And of course, when I was in Fortaleza, I spent a couple of nights at the pousada for sure. I never miss an opportunity to stay over there. Pousada Jurema Branca. And that's the beach of Morro Branco. All right, there you go. I hope that was helpful. Brazil vibes. All right, let me see. All right, Yokota. Luciano, where can I find your ebook, please? Yokota, is that for the digital nomad? We have a different ebooks, but let me tell you how to get them. You could say, listen, I went to the firm's live stream. You can send an email to info Oliveira. Actually, if you talk to Kina could even send it to you. Kina OliveiraLawyers.com, right? Just tell her the ebook, Yokora, that you want, and the way it works, like we have like an email list, like she adds you to the list, and then this is gonna send you the ebook automatically. You just need to inform, like we have different ebooks, right? So if we have an ebook just for the digital nomad, we have another one for the Brazil retirement route. So you need to tell her, Yokora, which ebook you want to have, and she's going to add you to the matching list. And if you don't want to stay in the list, of course, there is no problem. There is always like an unsubscribe button. So as soon as you get to the book, you can just click on unsubscribe and you're going to be good. All right, Yokora. All right. Wally, I mean 2 years digital nomad visa plus 2 year other visa, like 2 years spent on work permit or any other eligible visa. Yeah, so the time is spent, Wally, time is spent on digital nomad visa, it never counts for anything. Okay, so um, like I know, like in Portugal, for instance, Portugal is going to consider pretty much anything, right? Like even a student visa, you go to Portugal, you stay there, studying for, I don't know, whatever you're studying, and after 5 years, guess what? You can apply for not only permanent residency, but you can apply straight away to citizenship, and that's for pretty much anything, but not to Brazil. For Brazil, digital nomad is an entry level route, and they don't want to give you anything in exchange for time spent in the country. All right, Wally. Now, let's talk about the work permit, right? Like, I mean, if you are working for a firm or for a company in Brazil, so you have a sponsor. That's the first thing you need to have, like a sponsor. Once you have the sponsor, you're going to get like a work visa. It's not a business visa, right? Like it's a work visa. And then under the work visa, yes, you can, after 4 years, in theory, you will get the permanent residency in Brazil. And after 4 years of permanent residency, potentially you could apply for the citizenship. All right, Wally. Right. Wally says, hi, I check your discount 20% on. I not want a meeting. I direct apply for a consultation. I am direct apply for a consultation. How can I do that? What is the total charge to complete visa process of digital nomad? Right. So you don't want a meeting. You want to apply directly, right? Not for the consultation. You want to apply for the service, right? Yeah. So that would be the discount, right? Like the discount you get on the consultation. You pay for the consultation, then the consultation can be used as a credit for the service. If I'm not mistaken, we are charging $975 for the entire process of the digital nomad visa, right? Like from advising on the documents until applying for the visa and getting you the final result, right? So that's kind of A to Z. There is an additional procedure, which is the RNM card, right? RNM card. All right. Thank you so much. I really appreciate the Brazil vibes. That's so nice. All right. That's really nice. Thank you. Appreciate that. All right. So Wally, yeah. So Wally, the ideal approach, I'm gonna write over here, right? Like we have our onboarding team is available through our email, oliveiralawyers.com. Just send an email, right? They are gonna send you. They are gonna send you like a breakdown of the amounts and everything that you need to know. All right, Wally. Yokota, can multiple properties be combined to reach the 1 million reais requirement for the investment visa? For example, 800,000 in Salvador and 920 in Floripa. Yes, Yokota, yes. We do have, it's something kind of rare here at the firm because there is so much friction in terms of buying property in Brazil, Yokota, that we try to avoid that route unless you are buying multiple properties from the same seller, right? So something we do have more often here at the firm is particularly for the Northeast, right? Like, I mean, people are going to buy 2 condos, right? Like Fortaleza. Instead of buying a single condo for 700,000 reais, you can buy 2 condos for 350,000 each, and usually you're gonna buy from the same seller, right? Sometimes is a developer. They have a few units that were not sold. You're gonna buy 2. They're gonna give you a break, and then yes, you're gonna meet the requirement. But in theory, what you're saying that's fine as long as you buy in a compliant manner. That would work just well. Thank you, Brazil Vibes. I appreciate Brazil Vibes sent us a cup of coffee. Much appreciate Brazil Vibes. I like coffee, so that's welcome. I really like, and that was the first one, right? Like, I mean, I didn't even know this thing was possible. So Brazil Vibes is just starting, hopefully, a trend over here, right? Brazil vibes. And all right, Sean, for tourist visa, I already have 80 days and enter, but federal police say nothing. What do you suggest? I want to stay as long as possible and compliant for future immigration needs. Sean, so I'm gonna tell you about the two caps. We have two caps, for allowed stay in Brazil, and the two caps they work like this. One cap is gonna be 90 days per trip, and the second cap is gonna be 180 days per year. Okay. So if you have 80 days, if you have, let's say, you came to Brazil last time, you stayed for 80 days, in your second trip, you're going to have the full 90 days, right? Because the first one is not going to count against your second one. So you need to pay attention to those two caps. One cap, 90 days per entry, and the second cap is going to be 180 in a total of 365 days, right? And this is based on your immigration year, right? This is never like January 1st to December 31st. This is based on your immigration year, and usually the immigration year starts the first time you enter Brazil. So if you came to Brazil for your first time, let's say March 2024, this thing is gonna go up to February 28th of March February 28th of 2025, right? So this is going to be your immigration year, and you need to keep this account, to make sure that you're not exceeding the 180 days. Immigration is sometimes flexible on a entry by entry basis, but they are never flexible on the 180 days per year, right? Like, I mean, if you come and you mess up the way you're counting the days, and you have used up your 180 days, most probably than not, you're gonna be denied entry, right? Like, they're not gonna give you a break. They're pretty, strict on this second cap, right? So the first cap, as many of you probably know, if you are in Brazil for 80 days and you apply for an extension, you present a reason for you to require an extension. You present a bunch of documents, and you're most probably going to get an extension. So 90 days is more flexible. The 180, it's not. Okay, the 180, again, if you came to Brazil and you stayed for 180 days and you're coming again, you could be denied entry, and meaning that you're not going to enter Brazil. You're going to need to buy a return flight on the spot, or to reschedule your return flight to the next day, and then you will have to leave the country. All right. So yes, that's it for the days that you can spend in Brazil. All right, just sharing some news. As usually, this is like what we have on UOL. UOL is like the main news portal that we have in Brazil, and here they are mentioning President Trump, right? Like, President Trump is accusing Brazil of applying unfair tariffs, and mentions the country in the Congress, in the State of the Union, right? Like, the State of the Union speech occurred yesterday, and I think Brazil mentioned, like, Trump actually mentions usually Brazil and India, right? And from my experience, and I did work with international trade before I was even like in the legal field, like, I mean, for probably 3 decades ago. And my perspective is that Brazil does have huge tariffs, right? Like, so it was always amusing to me, like, the United States, whenever you are importing stuff, or, the United States, it looks like, it doesn't use the tariffs in the same way that Brazil does. So, like in Brazil, like 3 decades ago, right? So I'm not talking about today, even though today it remains pretty much the same thing. 3 decades ago, if you were going to buy something from the United States, Brazil would apply a tariff of 100% across the board, right? Like for some things, like if you are importing something that we call in our culture, we call vice products, right? Like things like cigarettes and alcohol, spirits, this type of stuff. Then it could be easily 200 or 300% tariff, okay? And it has been like that forever. So like whenever someone says, Trump is accusing Brazil, I think he's just stating, what happens or what has happened since the inception of the Brazilian Republic. Like we apply tariffs across the board, and it's not just for products coming from the United States. It's actually for products coming from anywhere in the world. So if the product is coming from Europe, unless there is a specific treaty, the tariffs are going to be, huge. If you are importing stuff from China, the same thing if you're importing stuff from Oceania or from Australia, whatever, right? Brazil is going to apply huge tariffs, right? So, of course, I know that not everything that Trump is doing is pleasing people or is actually making a lot of people mad. But the tariffs, they sound like common sense to me, right? I don't understand how countries traditionally apply, really high tariffs against the United States and other countries. By the way, it's not just against the U.S. And the U.S. just gives a free pass to everyone, right? So that's gonna be it. That's the main news. That's why I'm addressing over here, and. Culturally and traditionally, very interesting for you guys to know that we Brazilians, we follow the United States very closely, not only in terms of reading the news, but also emulating many things, or basically movies, right? The entire movie. Framework of the United States, coming from Star Wars to whatever you think, they are also part of our cultural background. So very interesting. Is a very interesting relationship between Brazil and the United States. You also see a lot of people who feels aggravated by the United States. But I will tell you, no matter if this person complains about the United States or not, I guarantee this person lives and breathes United States for a good chunk of hours every day, talking about either Trump or, watching U.S. movies or, using U.S. products, right? So it's a very interesting relationship, if you will. Okay, and if you guys have an opinion on that, of course, I would love to hear from you. Just so I am not just talking here by myself. So here is my question to you guys. What do you think, from your perspective about the relationship between Brazil and the United States? And I'm not talking politically, I'm talking more from a cultural perspective. So when you are in Brazil, how do you feel, your interaction with Brazilians? How do you feel about the way that Brazilians see movies or the culture from the U.S. Brazilians do like to speak in English. Let me know your perspective on that. Okay, let's go back to our chat. All right, we have a Didi. Hey, Didi, good to see you over here. Didi has been a supporter of our channel for a while. Good to see you over here, Didi. Hello, I am in the U.S. and I'm trying to get my Brazilian mother's documents to renew my Brazilian passport. How can I get my mother's original Brazilian documents? Will they forward to me in the U.S.? All right, renew my Brazilian passport. All right, so by original documents, Didi, are you talking about the birth certificate by chance? So like we have some online services, like, there is a registry or registradores. Let me show over here to you. However, they are not really good in terms of sending stuff to the US, okay? So, registradores. All right, so this website, I'm gonna write here in the chat window. All right, so you see, yeah, this one is for like real estate. And this one is for, like the birth certificates, okay? And it's a web service in which you can, as you can see here, order birth certificates, marriage certificates, and death certificates, all right? So I'm gonna copy this website to the chat window so you can take a look later on. But I can tell you, they are not gonna ship stuff abroad. They are not gonna accept. They are not gonna accept payments from abroad. They have a bunch of restrictions, unfortunately, whenever you try to access those things from abroad. And we used to help like with this type of need, but the problem we had, it was like we would need to charge a fee, and then people would say, wow, why are you charging all of that, right? Like I would say, well, because in Brazil, you cannot always order using the online system. So sometimes we would spend like 3 hours of work to retrieve this document. We would need to send this stuff to the United States. And then if we would charge, like $200 for that work, like 4 hours of work, people would get mad at us. So we eventually said, you know what, like we don't want to, we don't need this aggravation. Let people figure this out elsewhere, right? So we stopped providing the service just because of the difficulty of people in understand all the work surrounding obtaining a birth certificate in Brazil. For those of you who don't know, like in Brazil, there is a lot of red tape and bureaucracy, very typical of our culture. And there is never something like, all right, you just go here and you do a couple of clicks, you pay with your card, and there you go, you're done. There is no such a thing, right? And sometimes there is this gap in terms of understanding, right? People have an expectation, and other people, don't understand how it works. So we stopped doing. But Didi, if you need a referral for someone who can, help you with that, send us an email. I'm going to write here the email again. You can say, listen, I watched your live stream, and I just need someone to help me with my mother's, documents, and then we're going to provide you with a referral for someone who can probably provide that on a more cost-effective basis. All right, Didi? I hope that helps. Yokura, thank you so much. All right, now I have a coffee and I have a lunch. All right, I have coffee and lunch. So the coffee was provided by Brazil Vibes. Brazil Vibes paid for my coffee, and now Yokura is paying for my lunch. You're so kind, Yokura. Thank you so much. I really love the gesture. All right, that's really really important to me, Yokora. I really appreciate that. Okay, thank you so much. All right, what else we have over here? We have a Providence. Providence is always here in our channel. I'm closer to having my money together to engage your services, hopefully in the next week or so. Amazing, Providence. I'm so glad that you're here. Stressed, all right? Yeah, Providence, I completely understand. Whenever we talk about, going to a different country, it's some type of adventure, right? Like it's almost like a second life, and maybe it's not stress exactly, Providence. Maybe it's the excitement, right? So maybe it's the excitement, but I feel very happy for you, and yes, we're gonna be very happy to assist you when you're ready, whenever you're ready, Providence. So good to hear that. Sean, regarding the potential tourist visa change on April the 10th, if I enter before without an e-visa and the rules happen to change while in Brazil, is there any issue? A very interesting question, Sean. And the answer is pretty straightforward. You're not going to have any issues, right? Because you enter the country under the waiver, okay, before April the 10th, and then you can enjoy your 90 days in Brazil without a concern, right? Without a concern. Now, what I cannot tell you, what I cannot answer you, is that if you're gonna need a visa to apply for an extension, okay? Because if you enter Brazil before the visa requirement kicks in, you are allowed, you have your right to enjoy your 90 days. But if you want to apply for an extension, then it's going to be a matter of interpretation, because the Brazilian government could say, listen, you entered before the visa requirement kicked in. I gave you the 90 days, but now you asking me for something additional. And the something additional is being asked after the visa requirement kicked in. So I think it would be fair if the Brazilian government would say, you know what, like I'm not gonna give you the extension unless you have a valid e-visa. Okay, so pretty sure, Sean, pretty confident you're not gonna have any issues in staying for the 90 days. However, I cannot tell you if you're gonna need the e-visa to enjoy an extension if that's in your plans. All right, just a note, right? Like I know I told you guys before, um, the Brazilian federal government, they tried for 3 times already, for 3 times to implement the visa requirement for U.S. citizens, Canadians, and Australians, and they could not do it. Okay, now this fourth time, like up to now, I haven't heard about any news of a lobby by the Congress, to resist President Lula's effort in terms of requiring the visa. So it's a toss, right? I don't know. Like, I mean, if you think it is true, like if he couldn't be able to get this done for 3 times, chances are he's not going to be able to do it on the fourth. But on the other hand, maybe, like people see that he's so settled on requiring visas for U.S. citizens that this time they are going to let this pass, right? And just a perspective, like from the legal perspective, the federal government has a discretion in terms of how to ask for visas or not. But the Brazilian Congress was threatening President Lula, saying, listen, if you do that, we're going to approve a law, right, saying that, U.S. citizens don't need a visa. And, this would go to the Supreme Court because traditionally the federal government, the executive power, has discretion on deciding who needs a visa and who doesn't. But, President Lula was trying to avoid, of course, aggravation. President Lula has much more pressing concerns. And therefore, President Lula was saying, all right, like, so if you guys are so, enraged by my plan to ask U.S. citizens for a visa, like I'm not going to implement this thing. And by the way, I need your help with something else. So it looks like the Lula government has been using that more as a bargain chip, right, to get other things from the Brazilian Congress. But anyway, like it is scheduled to be enforced on April the 10th as we speak. All right, so that's it. I hope that was helpful. Okay. DD, thank you for the information. I will try the website for documents or seek your services to retrieve Brazilian documents if they ask me so. Yes, we can provide you with a referral. Something that we do assist with, DD, is like when you need like a number of things, right? Like you need to get, for instance, for people who were born in the United States to a Brazilian parent, right? Usually they get a passport when they are younger and then they never come to Brazil. And eventually they want to come and they say, listen, I want to renew my passport. But nowadays, the Brazilian consulates, they are enforcing a bunch of requirements. They say, listen, We changed things. Now you need the Brazilian tax ID. Now you're gonna need like an updated voting card. For a male person, they would require enrollment in the military service. So the Brazilian consulate mentality nowadays is that, in order for you to get your passport, they are not gonna give you the passport unless you are 100% up to date to your obligations as a Brazilian. Okay, Didi. So if you have a package of things that you need to be taken care of, then yes, this type of stuff we do assist traditionally here at the firm, because then we actually sell you like a package of hours. We sell you 10 hours. You buy these 10 hours, and then we're going to have like an analyst here at the firm working with you to get all of those things, right? We're just not working on a piecemeal basis, like I just need a birth certificate. That we won't work. Or I just need a CPF tax ID. We won't work, because it's very, like there is a lot of, just like anywhere else, like for us to onboard you here at the firm, we need to create you a profile. We need to process payment. We need to assign this job to someone. So all of those activities, right? They represent a cost and time that we're going to spend. So it's gonna be a more meaningful relationship for us to bring you on board, if you will. All right. So if you have like actually a number of things, then yes, we can get you a quote for that. Okay, Didi. But yes, a very interesting question for sure. Sean, regarding digital nomad state background check, should that be for the state I currently live in or all states I have lived? Planning to apply in Brazil with our services. Thank you for the with our services, because then I know the standard is going to be the standard that we have with the Brazilian immigration, and I can tell you, Sean, that we can get you approved with pretty much anything coming from either a municipality, a state, or federal level, right? So in our experience, like if you are from the United States, we're gonna try to get you the lowest hanging fruit. What do I mean by that? I'm gonna give you an example. If you are in New York, we're gonna use the New York court system. The New York court system is gonna allow you to issue this background check very easily. All right. So New York court system criminal recs, $95. I know because we use that, like pretty much almost every day. So here you see, for a fee of $95, you're gonna get the background check. No need for fingerprinting. Okay. No need for you to go anywhere. This thing is done like remotely. However, this is for those living in New York. If you're living in a different state, of course, you're not going to use the same thing, right? Now, let me give you another example. If you are living in California, there is no such a thing on a state basis that you can order like that. So for California, we usually go with the municipality or county level, right? So there is Los Angeles, like a huge county with, I don't know, like 120 sub counties within the Los Angeles County. So, like Santa Monica, like if you live in Santa Monica, there is a Santa Monica County. We usually are able to apply remotely through email for your background check with the Santa Monica County. However, in California, which is the standard at least for all the counties that I remember of, you're gonna need to pick up the background check later on, right? So we usually say, listen, we can apply, but for pickup, if you have like a relative or a friend that can drop by, that's all it is required. It doesn't need to be yourself going there, okay? So I give an example of a state level, which was New York. I gave you an example of a city level or municipality level, which was the Santa Monica County. There is also the FBI background check, right? I don't like the FBI background check for the digital nomad because whenever you get an FBI background check, usually the Brazilian immigration, they are going to associate that with the apostille, right? I don't know, like whenever they are getting the FBI, usually it's going to come with an apostille, and you don't need an apostille when you are applying with us for the background check, right? So we usually recommend you to get either county level or the state, but this is going to be based in your specifics. All right, Sean. I hope that was helpful. Let's see what else we have here open. All right, let me see what else. Um, ok. Fuzil Priming, boa tarde do Alasca. All right, Fuzil, good to see you back. Eu obtive o visto de visitante apenas para evitar problemas futuros por 10 anos. Posso mudar para o visto de aposentadoria aqui no futuro. All right, thank you for sharing Portuguese. Right now, let me translate for our audience. Fuzil Priming is from Alaska. He got the visitor visa, right? Probably the e-visa, I'm gonna guess, Fuzil, which is good for 10 years, meaning that you can have multiple entries within 10 years. Of course, it doesn't mean you can stay in Brazil for 10 years. It just means you can enter Brazil during those 10 years. And there is actually a catch that people are not telling you, Fuzio, and that's going to explain why it's not really good for 10 years. The e-visa, if that's the visa that you got, the e-visa is going to be attached electronically to your passport. So once your passport expires, guess what? The e-visa is no longer good. So, like my experience, people have their passport right in some point of the 10-year expiration time. So let's say if your passport is good for 2 years, guess what? Your visa is not really good for 10 years. It's going to be good just for 2 years. And again, that's for how long you can use the visa. You are still constrained to the 90-day per trip and 180 days per year. All right, Fuzio. And now, in terms of migrating to the, a retirement visa or to any other type of visa, it could be the digital nomad, it could be the retirement, it could be like the golden visa, right? Like the one that's going to give you access to permanent residency and citizenship. There is no concern whatsoever. And actually, for new clients that we are onboarding this week, for instance, we are actually, like for higher level type of service, for instance, the golden visa, we are actually giving them the e-visa for free, right? Because the golden visa, usually takes like between 6 to 7 months, between starting your journey and securing the golden visa. So we are actually, giving the work to secure the e-visa complimentary, because these people, they want to come to Brazil to first find the real estate, right? And so we get them the e-visa just like as a temporary path for them to stay in Brazil until they have the golden visa, if you will. All right, I'm gonna take a last question over here. I wanna thank again, for all of you who have been participating and sharing interesting information. Special thanks to Yokota and Brazil Vibes for my coffee and lunch of today. But let's go to the last question of today's live stream. Remember, we're going to be together again on Sunday. It's going to be just as usual at 3:30 in the afternoon, Rio de Janeiro time. For my friends in the United States, if I'm not mistaken, there is a time change this weekend, right? So just know that instead of the 3-hour gap, between Central Time and Brazil Coastal Time, I think the time is going to be reduced to 2 hours, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, that's more from memory, but just giving you a heads up so you don't miss our live stream on Sunday. And let me take this last one. Mark, as I am divorced in Brazil, can I apply for the 1-year citizenship using my son, as he's 26, living in Brazil with his Brazilian passport? All documents are up to date, as I have the RNM and leave it there. Yes, Mark. Now let me see. Your RNM, like the way it works is like this. Like if you apply for the permanent residency based on childbirth, right? So let's think. Mark is divorced in Brazil, but Mark's son is a Brazilian, and Mark secured the permanent residency through childbirth, meaning that because you have a child, a Brazilian child, you got the permanent residency. Then yes, you're gonna have the 1 year track, the 1 year expedited track for the citizenship. All right, Mark. Now, if you achieved the RNM through your wife, who was Brazilian, maybe by chance, then I'm not really sure if you needed to renew your RNM or not. Okay, in this case, what you could do, you could probably hire our service to assist you with the citizenship application. And then what we would do, we would naturally organize your paperwork and file your application for the citizenship based like on the best way possible of presenting your current documents. All right, Mark. I hope that was helpful. Again, thank you, everyone. I hope to see you again on Sunday, and you guys have a blessed rest of your Wednesday.